Welcome to the Garage Woodworks video podcast.
Okay, so up to this point, all my rails have been cut to rough length, and one face has been face jointed and one edge has been jointed. So the next thing I need to do is to work on these posts. Now they've been sitting for about a week, and what I'd like to do now is go ahead and square one corner and plane them to final thickness. Okay, so here's a tip for you for squaring up your lumber for the posts. Two of the faces that meet at a 90-degree angle have to be face jointed on the joiner. And the faces, the two remaining faces are going to be planed to thickness at the surface planer. Now because most surface planers will leave a little bit of snipe on the end, well mine does anyway, what I like to do is I like to have my joinery on the face that was jointed on the joiner. So what you want to do now is decide at this point which faces you want to have your joinery on, and the opposite sides that were planed on the surface planer, those are going to be exposed on the outside. So you want to make that decision now. Okay, we're really starting to make some serious progress on this bookshelf. All of my posts have been squared to the joiner and planed to final dimension. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my table saw sled, and I'm going to cut one end, all of the ends on one side, nice and square. And I'm going to come back and cut them to final length. Because the posts are so long, I had to clamp on an auxiliary board onto my table saw sled in order to accommodate a stop block. Okay, so now I have all the posts dimensioned to length and width and thickness. And now I'm going to turn my attention back to the rails. They're also dimensioned to thickness and width, but I need to dimension them to length. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to square up both ends and finish off these rails. All the posts turned out okay with the exception of this one, which actually had a knot inside the lumber, and I exposed the knot as I was planing down to thickness. But I don't think it's too bad. I think I can live with it, and I think it actually might give the piece a little bit of character. Here's a tip. Before I square up my expensive lumber, I like to make sure that my miter gauge is exactly 90 degrees. And this miter gauge has been hanging on the shelf for a few months, so just from lying around the shop, they tend to get a little bit out of whack. So I just like to check and make sure that it is exactly dead on 90 degrees. And this one is a little bit off, as you can see from the... So as I push my miter gauge forward and backwards, you shouldn't see any movement on that dial face. And I am seeing about 10 thousandths of an inch change in the reading. So I'm going to go ahead and recalibrate my miter gauge.